Hello and welcome to Combat Mission Final Blitzkrieg. Today I'm playing a multiplayer match as the British against my opponent Cornell from the official Combat Mission Discord. Our objective: capture a village on the outskirts of Aachen in September 1944. Historically, this was part of the Allied advance from Paris to the Rhine. The American First Army was pushing to break through the Siegfried Line and secure the Ruhr industrial basin, but instead they got bogged down in brutal urban fighting inside the city. For this battle, my headcanon is that the British 21st Army Group has sent a company to support the Americans, helping to capture strategic towns along the Belgian border, but standing in their way, elements of the Luftwaffe's 1st Parachute Army, tough, well trained and ready to put up a fight. As I mentioned, we're working with just a single company here. 1st and 2nd platoons are your bog standard British rifle units, each with a single Piat for anti-tank duties. Not that we'll need much of that, since the Luftwaffe don't actually have any armoured vehicles to throw at us. 3rd platoon, however, is a mechanised infantry unit, bringing a little more mobility to the fight. They've got 2 universal carriers, a Stuart light tank, and a Cromwell Mark IV. From here on out, I'll be referring to the village as Objective Monty. The map itself is pretty small. Monty is just a single street, with a large open field to the east and a big hill on the west flank. That hill has a perfect vantage point over the entire village, so it's clear we need to secure it early if we want to control the fight. I've got no artillery support this battle, so we'll have to rely on the 2-inch mortars. 1st and 2nd platoons will move up and use this light woodland for cover while we scout the area. Once I'm confident we're not getting flanked, 1st platoon will push forward and secure the first row of buildings. Meanwhile, 2nd platoon will hold the east, keeping our flank secured and standing by as reserve in case things get hot on the main road. 3rd platoon will have the mobility to rush the top of the hill and beat the Germans to it. I don't think the Luftwaffe has half tracks, and I'm pretty confident my opponent won't risk bringing Opals up on the slope. This is exactly the kind of job that the Universal Carrier excels at. 1st and 2nd platoons make a quick sprint across this field before reaching the tree line. Meanwhile, the armoured infantry push full speed towards the western hill. Battalion HQ, led by Lieutenant Colonel Witherspoon, moves into a 2-storey house on the village outskirts to set up a base of operations.
Get out! Go! Go! Go!
3rd platoon dismounts on the reverse slope of the hill. I move the Cromwell up to the crest, hoping to get a few cheeky high explosive shots off before the Germans can dig in. Then, disaster. A high velocity shell whistles just over the turret, way too close for comfort. A second later, impact, Pack 40 hidden in a trench. The shell punches through the frontal hull, narrowly missing the driver, but Spaulding tears through the front machine gunner and the main gunner. The Cromwell was the most important asset in my company, and I lost it within the first 2 minutes of the battle. Lesson learned: never use your armour to spot. If only I'd been more cautious, sent a section up first to observe from the hill, we would have spotted those AT guns and this wouldn't have happened. With the Cromwell abandoned, I send 2 sections up to the nearest hedgerow, but the Germans are a lot closer than I expect. 2nd and 3rd sections, C and B detachments get absolutely shredded. The Bren gunner from 3rd section has his legs blown off by a grenade. Then, more bad news. A second Pack 40 is revealed, along with a medium mortar. Meanwhile, in the woodland, 1st and 2nd platoons get ready to go ahead to move into the village as part of the second phase of the plan.
Check your spacings. On the double, let's go.
Another mistake, the Stuart is parked way too close to a building the Germans can use for cover. 3 Panzerfaust shots are fired, 1 takes out the driver and disables the tracks. The last rifleman from 3rd section spots a German just a few feet away in the shrubs and takes him down, only to be immediately picked off by one of the Pack 40s. Lieutenant Hinchcliffe is now holding the contested hill with just 7 men, himself included. That's all that's left of 3rd platoon after this disastrous start. The Pack 40s are a serious problem. I order 1st platoon's 2-inch mortar to start dropping rounds on the trench immediately. 1st Company is now in position and starting to dig in at Objective Monty. As far as I can tell, the main German force seems to be focused on capturing the hill. They haven't made it to the village's main road yet. Somehow, the surviving members of the Cromwell's crew are still alive, behind the Germans. The tank commander makes the most of his Sten gun. A Company HQ, led by Major MacLeod, is loaded into a carrier and evacuated from the hillside, leaving Lieutenant Hinchcliffe to fight the last man. After losing their loader to a bullet, the last 2 Cromwell crewmen surrender.
Retreat!
Meanwhile, the Stuart crew had been sitting in their disabled tank for the last few minutes, but another Panzerfaust hit finally convinces them to bail out. I start hammering the German trench with my second 2-inch mortar, throwing everything I've got at those AT guns. As 1st platoon secure buildings, I expect a barrage of fire from across the street, but nothing happens. Instead, most of the German machine gun fire is concentrated on the west flank. Since it looks like I've beaten the Germans to Objective Monty by a large margin, I send 3 fire teams across the road to secure the other side. Then, just like that, I get hit with a barrage of MG42 fire, cutting straight through the gap in the buildings, multiple machine guns focused on one of my occupied buildings. The gunfire is so intense that most of 1st platoon is pinned down and ricochets are flying everywhere. One of them bounces off the south block of houses and kills a soldier who thought he was safe on the opposite side of the street. Back on the hill, a small German detachment moves over the crest to scout for survivors from 3rd platoon, but they don't get far. Lieutenant Hinchcliffe's team quickly pins them down and takes them out. On the main road, it's clear I'm losing the firefight. The sheer volume of MG42 fire is too much. I pull 1st platoon back from the south buildings and have them take cover behind them instead. Major McLeod arrives, giving the men a small morale boost. After firing off every last explosive round, I check the Pak-40s, and to my dismay, they are both fully operational. With no other choice, I start dropping smoke. The only thing stopping me from getting a good flank with 2nd Platoon is that trench. The smoke might have worked, if not for the wind blowing northward, messing up my placement and leaving the trench's line of sight mostly unobscured. 2nd Platoon pushes forward anyway, and takes heavy casualties in a failed attack. The Germans have another crack at taking the hilltop, and gunfire is exchanged. They're slowly picking off the last remnants of 3rd Platoon one by one, but at least the men are keeping them distracted. One German machine gunner finds an amazing position on the hill, with a clear view of the south block of buildings at Objective Monty, exactly the kind of situation I wanted to avoid by taking the hill in the first place. First Platoon's 2nd Section Bren gunner holds a key corner, delaying the German advance. Meanwhile, 2nd Platoon comes under mortar fire in retaliation for their failed flanking attempt. Armed with nothing but his Webley, Lieutenant Hinchcliffe and his platoon sergeant continue to heroically cause problems for the Germans. The 1st Platoon Bren gunner that had been delaying the Germans' assault is finally killed. Then, 1st Platoon HQ, Lieutenant Adam takes a stray bullet. "11 minutes into the battle, we spot a group of Germans moving across the field towards a waist-high wall, clearly preparing for an assault on Objective Monty. Already scraping the barrel, I commit the 2-inch mortar team to help Lieutenant Hinchcliffe. Just a couple of extra rifles, but every gun counts. The Germans at the wall waste no time vaulting over the cobblestone and sprinting towards the north building block. Meanwhile, 1st Platoon is taking cover behind the buildings. I barely have any rifles watching the street facing side. 2nd Platoon's 3rd section is caught on the wrong side of the road, just as the Germans are filling the surrounding buildings. It's too dangerous to retreat now. A German machine gunner pauses to lob a grenade at 2nd Platoon's Piat team, but it misses. Time for a bit of deception. If I offer no resistance across the street, maybe I can trick the Germans into thinking I'm weaker than I actually am. The idea is simple. Let them cross, let them push up to the south buildings, then 1st Platoon guns them down from the ground floor windows. Sadly, 3rd Platoon's sergeant is taken out by an MP40 burst, leaving Lieutenant Hinchcliffe completely alone. After the first failed attempt at smoking the Pak-40s, I finally managed to block their line of sight. Their reign of terror is over, but it's too little, too late. Especially because, on the west flank, the Germans have brought a new toy, an LG-40 recoilless rifle. The German assault comes earlier than expected. 2 or 3 rifle teams sprint across the road. They have no idea 3rd section is still hiding near the corner house. Even to my own surprise, the plan works. The unsuspecting Germans are cut down as they rush inside. With the enemy repelled, 1st Platoon surges into the buildings, taking up firing positions at the street-facing windows. Whoever suppresses the other first wins the fight, and right now, it looks like the surprise attack has worked in my favour. Having suffered my presence on the hill long enough, the Germans begin to mortar it to high heaven. Meanwhile, that recoilless rifle is now in position to fire on 1st Platoon. It needs to be dealt with immediately. I figure it will be distracted by 1st Platoon long enough for a 3rd Platoon rifle section to pop out from behind a wooden house and take out the crew. Unfortunately, the Germans are quick to react, shifting their fire onto the men before they can do much damage. More German reinforcements spotted, possibly mortar teams or HQ units coming from that anti-tank trench. At the same time, I realise I have 5 soldiers sitting in my backlines doing nothing, so I sent Lieutenant Colonel Witherspoon to take back the overrun hill for the British Empire. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Hinchcliffe, down to his last bullets, wins a pistol duel against a determined German carrying a Panzerschreck, but now he's completely out of ammo. A 3rd Section rifleman sticks his Enfield through a window and takes out a German cowering on the ground. The recoilless rifle is still hammering my buildings, making it harder and harder to maintain fire superiority. I managed to take out one of the crew, but I can't seem to put the gun out of action. Lieutenant Hinchcliffe is shot dead. He'll forever be remembered for his heroic defence of Monty Hill. He fought until he ran out of ammo, never routed, never surrendered. He made the ultimate sacrifice for England. His death marks a turning point. Uncontested German machine guns and marksmen now pour fire onto Objective Monty, making the situation even less tenable. The 3rd Section rifles are somehow still alive and causing havoc on the north side of the road, leading to this funny picture of the British shooting German reinforcements inbound while the Germans in the neighbouring house fire the opposite way towards the street. To sum up, a recoilless rifle is still laying down fire from the west. 2 Pak-40s are still operational, taking shots through the gaps between the buildings. The Germans control the hill and are hammering me with machine guns and marksmen. I have a decision to make. At this point, I could pull my men back behind the houses and offer a ceasefire. The Germans would probably accept. Attacking my side of the street with their remaining infantry would be too costly, and that would lead to a draw. However, that's boring. From what I can see, there are only 3 German riflemen in these buildings. I still have enough troops to overrun them. One last charge, everything or nothing.
Made a note in my diary on the way here. Simply says, bugger.
Turns out there were a lot more Germans than I thought. They were just suppressed and not showing their heads. The moment my men rushed across, the enemy fire lifted and they were gunned down. I know you're supposed to have suppressing fire in an attack, but at this point I had no Bren guns left. I needed every man for the assault. After that disaster, there was only one thing left to do: surrender. In shame, after such a massive tactical blunder. This game came down to a knife's edge. A draw was definitely possible, but I had to see if I could push it just a little further and secure that win. In the end, only 14 Brits survived: the Stuart commander, 4 men from 1st Battalion HQ, including Lieutenant Colonel Witherspoon, a universal carrier driver, 5 men from 1st Platoon, 3 men from 2nd Platoon. Someone in my comments on my last video wanted a breakdown of the German forces, so here it is. They only had 2 platoons, but also what looked like 5 Panzerschreck teams and a recoilless rifle. Over in the trench they had 2 PaK-40s, their company HQ and a medium mortar team. Once again, thanks to Cornell from the official Combat Mission Discord for this fantastic game. I always try to learn something from every match and apply those lessons moving forward. My infantry gameplay is definitely improving, but my armour tactics are absolutely awful. Something to work on.